What's up guys, Sean here. I want to do a quick video about how to open a pocket knife. It seems rather silly, but there's a lot of people, they have a hard time opening these lockback knives right here. And it's not just something like this cold steel with the triad lock, but any lockback or even just any folding knife. I see a lot of people seem to have a lot of trouble. And really it's rather simple. I mean, I make it look easy and flick it out as well. You can flick these knives right here, okay, and that's not loose or anything like that. So how you do it? So I'm taking my hands on this side and I'm putting it right there on the handle just before where the blade opens. With this thumb right here, I'm building pressure up this way. I see a lot of people, what they do is they try to push out, okay? And yeah, that works when you open it nice and slow if I'm pushing it out, but that's not as efficient as just going straight up. But at the same time, what I'm doing is these fingers right here, it's a motion like this, okay? My fingers are acting on the blade here. I'm building pressure here, and then when I release, the action is boom, like almost like a flicking action right here, okay? Now be sure you're safe with these knives, and make sure they have this unsharpened area here if you're going to close them with one hand, because what you can do is if you put your finger, the meat of your pad, right there at the tip of that, this unsharpened section, okay, that can't cut me, okay? That unsharpened section right there is hitting my finger. So that allows me to close it with one hand just as quickly as I can open it. Alright? So yeah, once you get the basics of that down, you can open your knife plenty of different ways. There's the slow opening action, where you simply build that pressure and follow the thumb stud up and out like so, okay? Or there's that flicking action that we talked about. Now I can't really do it, but you could also do a middle finger action. It's too hard to do with the thumb stud, especially on a knife this stiff right here, versus on a Spyderco, when you have that spider hole, you can totally open it with your middle finger, even on a lockback knife, okay? So in order to do the middle finger flick open, what you have to do is, you see how your finger is? You still need to go straight up with opening the knife. So you want the knife orientated in your hand for your middle finger to actuate it, okay? So if for your thumb going straight up like this, you can't do that with your middle finger, okay? It gets stuck, you'll end up doing that. So you need to rotate the knife in your palm, and I usually have this section in the meat of my palm here, and then from there I'm able to get 1, 2, 3, these 3 fingers out of the way, and let me try that again. Bam, just like that. For the reverse opening flick, same thing. You need to orientate the knife to how your finger actuates, like that, okay? Because again, we want to go straight up against it, and bam, just like that, okay? Bam, every time. So as far as opening with a wrist flick, how that works is you need to find the center of balance on the knife. So on the Endura, it's about right there. So when I'm trying to open this, I want to rotate it out along this like it's a hinge, okay? So when I come out, I then jerk to stop and the knife flies out. And that'll work on most of these backlock knives, even the stiffer triad lock, this one's newer. If I find where the balance is on the knife and simply rotate it around that, so these lockbacks, they don't have a dent, they just rely on the spring tension there. But yeah, I see a lot of people complain about lockback knives, and the thing is that they can open just as fast, if not faster, than a liner lock. It's really about how people are opening them. It's about the user skill. But when we start getting into things like the liner lock and the compression lock's over here, this is a liner lock, you definitely get a lot smoother knife. I mean, it's probably my smoothest folding knife is the compression lock. And that's me depressing the lock. If I don't depress the lock, it doesn't move. When I depress the lock, look at that action. It's impressive. And with the larger spider hole that's been chamfered, it's much more comfortable. Okay, you do all the same stuff. It's just it feels faster because it's just so much smoother. You do pay for that though. It's much more expensive knife. But even the Tenacious does have the benefit of feeling a little bit smoother than your regular back lock. Of course, when you get this knife, it is a little bit gritty in the action. It does need a little bit of tweaking to make it as smooth as mine is right here. But yeah, you gotta watch out, make sure your finger's out of the way with the liner lock. What else could we talk about? Let's see, the axis lock, also very smooth, just like the compression lock. Okay, and the axis is fun, just like the compression lock, because with both of these knives, what you can do is depress the locks and flick them out. Okay, and they're both incredibly smooth. This is the axis lock. This right here is the compression lock. The axis lock seems to get a lot more grit and stuff and build up in there, as well as it relies on these two omega shaped springs on each side. Axis lock is wonderful though, very strong. I don't test which lock is stronger. They're freaking folding knives. They're never going to be as strong as a fixed blade, but they're strong enough for all the cutting that you're going to do. But I would really worry about, there's other things that are more important, I feel like, for a lot of other people than lock strength. But this smoothness, I feel like, is really what you're paying for when we're getting into these knives, more expensive knives right here. Just much more smooth. Much easier for people to open in the ways that I showed you. But if you have good technique with opening knives, then you will have no problem with your lockback knife. So last but not least, you have your assisted opening knives. And these simply aren't as fun for someone like me, because I feel like it takes a lot of the enjoyment and deployment out of the knife. It just kind of rockets out on its own. You don't have really many options for how to open it. You could do, but it just feels kind of cheesy to me. I don't really like it as much. And I have had the torsion bars break in my assisted opening knives, so I don't feel like it's as reliable. Some of the knives don't have the dents in there to retain the blade. The actual assisted opening is what helps retain the knife in there. So when that breaks, and if you're out in the field or something and this is your folding knife, then you're basically stuck with a knife that won't want to stay closed. So this one has a dent. An example of a knife that doesn't is something like this Kershaw Knockout. It does not have a dent, but it's a sweet knife. It has a thumb stud on there with a flipper. The ZT stuff is really cool because they have frame locks, which are pretty popular, but it's also on a ball bearing system, and this thing is really sweet too, because that thing just rockets out, and it's incredibly smooth. And the dent on there is actually massive. Probably can't see it in there, but there's a much bigger dent, which is a small ball bearing, and what that does is it allows you to build enough pressure on this back flipper here to launch the knife out as fast and as smoothly as it does. So very sweet. Some people have a really hard time opening these because they're putting pressure on this lock bar here, and if you put your fingers on there and build the pressure, that's actually keeping the knife closed. I can't pull that flipper back. I have to release the pressure on that. Bring your fingers further back on this knife, maybe onto the pocket clip, and you should be able to deploy this knife much better. So there you have it. You can open any knife incredibly fast if you know what you're doing. So that's how you open a pocket knife. Thank you, Mary. Blah, can't talk. Thank you very much, guys. Stick around. We'll talk more about knives. Love talking about knives. Let me know what you guys would like to see. Take care.